Welcome to the Executive Innovation Show podcast, where we bring you real executive conversations with industry game changers and thought leaders. We ask the questions you're thinking, what you're scared to ask, and we make your brain hurt afterward. With your host, Carrie Chitsey, co-founder and CEO of One Touch Video Chat, live video interviews, and the nonprofit Humans Helping Humans.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's show. We're going to be talking about telehealth physical therapy, the future of PT post-COVID, brought to you by One Touch Telehealth. I have a great guest with me today. I have Tim Spooner, who's the CEO and a physical therapist from the self-insured owner of Spooner Physical Therapy with 22 locations and the founder of Spooner MSD Solutions. He's on the front lines with employers to receive the best care for their employees at the best price and looking really innovating things for medical overspend. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carrie. It's great to be here.
Well, great. Well, we're in the middle or in the re-middle of COVID right now. So I felt like we had a little bit of a breath and then now we're full swing again. And many healthcare executives really had to audible overnight to figure out kind of this new world and keeping patients safe and doing appointments virtually and still bringing folks in and so forth. Tell me a little bit about how you guys on the physical therapy side really were able to, across these locations to audible and see patients virtually as well as, some coming in. How did that look for you guys?
Great question. As a physical therapist, we are an essential healthcare provider. And when you have a musculoskeletal disorder, the last thing they want you doing is going to the doctor or going to the ER right now with COVID going on. So we are a primary care musculoskeletal provider. And as such, we can take care of those people. If they can come into the clinic, great. If not, we can do telehealth. And even we have an on-demand service where we'll go and meet them wherever they want, at a park, at their house, whatever.
That's great. And one of the things that we saw during COVID was, the training of kind of the mindset of physical therapists of, you come into a physical location, very similar to a gym where you have all this great equipment and all these things. And now you're trying to do this virtually and figure out what the patients actually have at home and kind of audible of, do they have a 5-pound dumbbell or what's the equivalent, and really trying to figure this out very quickly to be able to do it virtually. How did you get your physical therapist and kind of change some of those plans to adapt to what people had at home?
Well, you're exactly right. The first thing we had to do was pivot our mindset and realize we can do this, number one. Number two, the patients are cooped up in their home and they greatly appreciate a healthcare provider taking time to do it. So when we're talking to them, the biggest thing that we do as physical therapists is restore movement. And when we're restoring movement, we can evaluate via video screen. We can give recommendation and self-mobilization techniques for those people with ways to help unwind their system and restore that movement. A lot of times they can't feel themselves. They think it may be coming from their knee when in actuality it may be coming from their hip or say their foot. And we can give them mobilization ideas and exercises to do on their own, and also observe them while they're doing it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, so as we get, back to normal, whenever that ends up being back to normal, a lot of folks are talking about that have learned a lot of things during COVID that, maybe the future is a hybrid model, maybe especially with things like physical therapy and mental health and things like that, where it's very critical that somebody comes in once a week, twice a week, that really has, a continuum of care plan that has frequency. We live in this kind of busy world, where work and kids and all that kind of stuff Is that model going to change for you in the future now that folks are getting used to telehealth for physical therapy? Does it look different of they come in physically maybe once a week and then once is kind of a follow-up and doing exercises with them? Or does it go back to all within the four walls? What's your thinking now kind of post what you've seen?
Yeah, again, another great question. I think it's here to stay, and I think it's here to stay for very, very good reasons. As we've seen the explosion of telehealth in primary care, so I think we'll see the explosion of primary care musculoskeletal virtual or telehealth applications as well. It is very cost effective. And the main thing is that we can meet the patient where they are. You referenced, the younger generation, they're on their phone. The older generation has, adapted extremely well to this and very quickly. It's actually been wonderful to see that, them use the technology and actually interact. But with the younger generation, they want to see it, do it, and experience it now. And I don't think we'll ever get away fully from having in-person PT because there are some, there are specialty skills that we have from our women's health to breast cancer to some of the manual techniques that we do, but they're not necessary every time, and we can still make progress with people.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how well seniors, when forced to do, kind of telehealth, figured out really quickly that they actually liked it. I was reading some comments the other day from some patients, and this one comment just keeps sticking with mine. And this guy wrote this whole paragraph in our patient survey that he was 86 and had never, done a video telehealth, but he said that this is his preference because he woke up, he put a nice shirt on, he got his hair combed, but he was still able to keep his pajama bottoms on. So I thought that was good.
So you mentioned that my dad turned 93 during COVID. He's in the same long-term care facility as his wife, as my mom, and they were unable to see each other for 4 months.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it's one of the very sad things of loneliness through this. So when his 93rd birthday, we did a Zoom call with all of his children and grandchildren. And he was ecstatic. And I got to give a shout out to the GrandPad. We got him a GrandPad right after that, and he's loving it. It's a great device, and all of a sudden he's connected back in again. So
the deferred isolation, long-term care right now is a whole other show that we're doing. It's insane. So
yes.
Well, cool. I want to shift over to the MSD side because I know you're, do a ton of work in that space and super expert in that field. With the passion that I have for the opioid side and with my nonprofit and so forth, I think you have some really great points around this of what employers should be thinking of as not just the temporary Band-Aid to MSD from an opioid and surgery and things like that. For folks that aren't familiar with MSD and kind of, can you just give a little background of why this is broken and what we should all be thinking about?
Absolutely. MSDs, musculoskeletal disorders or dysfunction, affects 4 out of 5 people that are walking around every day. So it is out there, and those people are someone that we can help. And the challenge is with an employer, if they have a $5,000 deductible and a $50 copay to go see physical therapy, the average American is not able to take that time nor the expense to actually go through and benefit from receiving relief and receiving care. So we try and remove that barrier. We try and give them access to care, but we also move further upstream, meaning musculoskeletal dysfunction presents itself as some discomfort or inability to do something you would like to do in a performance standpoint. And by surveying and gathering data from people, we can move upstream on that and be able to take care of those things where they're reversible. not waiting till they become a complete, dumpster fire and, have to have surgery or something of that nature. And in the whole system, we're looking at musculoskeletal disorders. It's a biomechanical issue. So if you have a biomechanical issue, you should see the biomechanical expert in the medical field, which is us. It's like if you need your car painted, you're not going to take it to the mechanic. You're going to take it to a body shop.
Right.
If you need your car tuned, you'll take it again to the car mechanic, not the body shop. And this is the same thing in the medical field. It is not set up to treat biomechanical issues. And when you look at musculoskeletal disorders, 85 to 90% of them are treated well with conservative care.
And I think, one of the misconceptions out there is MSD is older people, people, more blue collared, been out doing manual labor. And, speaking of me personally, if I was to turn my computer on, I just got this like crazy high tech chair because as a techie, I go home every day with back pain from being, like this over a computer. And I think as we look at the younger demographics, I'm guessing you're seeing trends where people that work on computers all day or developers or call center people or even now, nurses or doctors or whatever it may be. Are you seeing a different shift with younger demographics coming in on the MSD side versus older generation?
It is consistent across the entire population. So for instance, I'm self-insured myself. I have a company of over 300 people that are young, healthy, generally physically fit. When we survey our own company, I get the same statistics as I do in a material handling company. And as such, but it allows me now to go and treat those people. And, maybe someone who's having discomfort, but they don't want to bug somebody. It may be they're having discomfort, but they haven't taken the time to do it. So we make the time because as caregivers, we got to make sure we're physically and mentally ready to take care of people in order to do our best. And that's if you're an employer and you look at an employee who has discomfort and he goes, let's see, I woke up and I can't move my neck. I could go to the ER. I can go to an urgent care. I could call my primary care, but he's just going to give me medication. He's not actually going to treat me.
Go to the chiropractor.
Yeah, go to the chiropractor. And what is normally chosen though is I'm going to self-treat. I'm going to start self-medicating and try and tough it through. It'll go away type scenario. And that just leads to postponement of treatment. And these things build up and, cause further issues down the road when they're a relatively simple fix when you get them acutely.
Not only that is people are self-medicating, or going to the ER and getting, 10, 15, 20 opioids. And then, they have genetically that they're addictive and, now we're buying them from the street or getting them elsewhere. So I think that's definitely a trickle effect of a problem, right?
I think the trickle started a long time ago. It is now a flood rush of of water coming down because it is so much in the system. We've lost a child each year from our high school that has gotten into the medicine cabinet, from an opioid addiction. And, it does not matter your socioeconomic situation. It cuts across all. And it's the sad part is that we know better and we have preventable things for this as a society if we enact the right solutions. And I think as an employer, I feel a fiduciary and, responsibility to my employees to put the best plan out there. And that's how we try and reach employers, that they do have that responsibility as a fiduciary when they put their plan together.
Yeah.
How do they make these drugs to access?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So the one thing we always ask at the end of the show is, what is one thing healthcare related that is keeping you up at night?
Just one?
I guess it's a bad time to ask that because I know everybody's number one answer right now, right?
Yeah. Who's sleeping anyway?
Not me. I've had like 3 hours today.
There's, I don't, this isn't, although COVID by name is new, I don't think a situation like this is relatively new. Certainly how we reacted to it was new. And I think the postmortem on this will be, we'll tell if this was the right thing to do or not. But what keeps me up at night is that there are solutions to help the average American that exist in the marketplace. We're seeing direct primary care. We're seeing direct primary care musculoskeletal specialists come into employers and really help people and help them feel better. And at the same time, give a benefit to the employer in terms of saving dollars on their healthcare spend. And what keeps me up is the people that are fighting against that. The hospital associations, the large pharma companies that do not want to see change on a large scale. To me, it's just fundamentally wrong, and almost to the point where it's immoral to not take care of people. I'm a healthcare provider, and what got me into the MSD solution was when Mrs. Jones would come in and says in her script says she has acute low back pain, and I asked when it started, and she would say 4 months ago, and that's not acute anymore.
Yeah,
it's 4 months late. And when you ask them the journey they took to get to your office, and the expense, they've usually spent somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000. And they said they had low back pain. It was a mechanical issue that was treated in 3 to 5 visits that now takes maybe 5 to 10 visits because it's just
right.
so stiff and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And during those 4 months, what was that person's comfort and their lifestyle like? And those people are walking around in our companies right now. They're walking around in our society. And to me, those are things that we can help right now, and help those people feel better.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think we all have to think about that. It's, we always want the quickest solution. Even me, physical therapy, mental health, everything's super important. It's, you got to make time for it, right? To do it the right way and stop teaching our kids to take the short routes, as I tell my 12-year-old all the time.
Well, and if we're proactive and we work upstream with things, physical therapy doesn't have to be 2 hours 3 times a week, for 6 weeks. It can be come in, get a treatment, here's some things, and then check back in with us next week, or let's do it on Friday. And, all of those things are possible in today's environment. And, COVID may be actually a blessing for telehealth, obviously, to push us over this. And you ask a question, why wasn't telehealth? I'm prohibited by license from doing telehealth until the emergency state that we're in. Who doesn't want us to do that? And even medical providers, mental health providers. I was on the phone yesterday with a nutritionist that was not allowed to do telehealth until this state. What is wrong with a nutritionist, a registered dietitian, giving advice over the phone or over telehealth?
Right. Yeah, I think it definitely skyrocketed the growth by, probably at least 2 years. And I think, I think it'll be, some of the codes that were unlocked will stay unlocked because, now you have providers, you have patients, everybody that, saw the benefits and you start to see the benefits of the care. It's pretty interesting to me that, ER costs went down 40%, during the middle of a global pandemic because of telehealth.
Shocking.
Touche, right?
Yeah. Well, but they were there for the critically ill people with COVID.
How it was designed to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And in one aspect, that part of the system, worked perfectly.
Yeah. No, it's craziness. So, well, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been great, Tim. As always, remember to subscribe to get your weekly podcast. Click on the link in the show notes to follow Tim and learn more about what he's up to. And we will see you next week. Tim, thanks again so much for being on the show.
Great. Thanks, Carrie. Good to see you. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
This podcast has come to a close. To hear more from the Executive Innovation Show podcast, subscribe, submit questions, and share the love. Follow us on social. We're everywhere.